Welcome to Audiogyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Naresh Narsimhan with us on Audiogyan. He's an architect, urbanist, activist, and a creative. As a co-founder of Mod Institute, an international collective of urban designers, researchers, curators, Naresh has been responsible for making cities like Bangalore and urban processes that drive them visible and participatory. As a part of erstwhile Bangalore Agenda Task Force, a founder and a trustee of Imagine Bangalore and regular advisor to government bodies, Naresh has fueled many progressive causes for the city. So thank you, Naresh, for giving us your time, and it's a real honor to have you on Audiogyan.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here on the show.
Yeah. Today generally Audiogyan deals with discussions on designers, design, philosophy, performing arts and stuff like that. But today I'm trying to just take a very broader perspective of design, and the topic which I've thought of to discuss with you is design of Bangalore.
Okay.
And I've come up with few questions for these. So we'll start off by asking you, like, what is the design of Bangalore? Like, from a geography standpoint also, it's circular nature as opposed to Mumbai's linear nature and things like that. Yeah. And also in one of your talks, I heard about the cow shape geography with a governance standpoint. So can you tell us about it more?
See, Bangalore is a strange city. Mm-hmm. Right? It's one of probably the largest city in the world without any natural boundaries.
Okay.
Right? It is not next to a river. It is not next to a sea. It's not a port. And it's not even next to a mountain. These are usually cities around the world are positioned for obvious reasons, either protection and water supply. Bangalore does not even have water supply. Usually cities are next to rivers at least.
Correct.
For fresh water.
Yeah.
Or that's how cities start. So it's a strange geography, and it's also one of the highest points in the Deccan Peninsula, in the Deccan Plateau rather, not peninsula, Deccan Plateau.
Okay. And
we are almost about 3,000 feet above sea level.
Oh.
Right, that's quite a lot, 1,000 meters. Yeah. And that's why that's the dark secret of Bangalore's climate. It's just its elevation. Right, and that's we have fantastic climate. And Bangalore became a settlement by design. There was no reason for it to have naturally evolved into a city. So why it was done like that? Because it is at the confluence of two major trade routes going east and west. Okay. Mangalore to Chennai.
Okay.
This way. And also north and south coming from northern India, from Pune, and from eastern India, from Hyderabad, going down into the south of India. Right? That was the easier route.
Correct.
And still the national highway pattern of it will show that these were the original. So Bangalore became like a trading city, a city of trades, literally. And the old city of Bangalore was set up somewhere around the early 16th century, which is around 1537. Right? 1537 was the official date at which Kempegowda, the first, established the city of, and the city was always thought of, I wouldn't call it a city then, but it was never thought of as a village. It was a town to start with. That's not normal in India. Most places would have started with a small village and then grown into a town and then grown into a city. This was conceptualized in the early 15th century as a town.
Okay.
With almost I think close to 30 different kinds of tradesmen living in it.
Wow.
So, and the shape of the town was, as you pointed out, was like the mouth of a cow, the face of a cow. That was due to mostly geographical reasons, because there must have been a mound there or a higher point and they would have laid it out.
Correct.
But what they did, the early builders of Bangalore, Bengaluru is the right way to say it, because that's what we know it as locals.
Okay.
Right? Bangalore was the anglicized version from the British. Bengaluru is the right pronunciation of it.
Okay.
It has multiple theories about its origin, but what's most fascinating is that all the lakes, there are no lakes in Bangalore. All of them are man-made tanks made by these rulers. even earlier to Kempegoda. And these lakes would trap rainwater, and that would be used by the people to, I mean, you can build a city anywhere, but if you don't have water, like Fatehpur Sikri, that's the end of your city. So, very clever system of overflowing lakes and bunds. They made tanks, which impounded all the rainwater. Bangalore gets close to about 970 millimeter of rain every year. It's quite a lot of rain. Now that's millions and millions of liters of rain. A lot of this was captured. Over time, once the British took over, the city expanded, and that is another story. So, but the funny thing is that it's one of the, it is older. It is 481 years old this year, right? It is older than Chennai, it is older than Bombay, and it's older than Calcutta.
Oh, is it?
And the older than us is only Jaipur and Delhi. So it's quite a...
Varanasi maybe?
Varanasi is older than everything else and twice as much all put together. Nobody knows how old Varanasi is. Varanasi is probably the oldest inhabited city on earth.
Wow. Okay. And just to elaborate on, like, in terms of how the design has evolved over time, I mean, because it's spreading, because that's a very narrow perspective at which I am looking at, but you could probably...
So, major dates in the history of Bangalore would be, say, in 1799, the British defeated Tipu Sultan at Srirangapatnam, or Seringapatam, as it was known as. And then the Bangalore administration was taken over by the British. They took over Bangalore. They had their office in their old fort area. And in Tipu's palace was the first office of the first office of the British administration. And they ruled the place till about the restitution, what is called the restoration, which is where the king of Mysore was reinstated on the throne, right, in 1881, if I'm not mistaken. And the city was divided into two halves, right? One called the cantonment, or the British military establishment. The British basically used Bangalore as a staging place, and they had a huge military presence here right from the days of Tipu Sultan. They made that into the cantonment, and then the rest of it was called the city. Pete, as we call it in Kannada, the petes, which is different trades had different places to live. And the city effectively split into two. It was called a civil and military station, the correct name for the cantonment, because civilians were also permitted, that is only westerners. And they built a giant park in between the old city and the new city called Cubbon Park, which was basically an apartheid park. Basically, anybody from the old city, the Indians, could go over to the British side with a pass, and they have to be back in their city by 6 p.m. Otherwise, you will be arrested. So that this was reserved for the northern half of the city, where the city developed, was reserved for the occupying forces, the British forces. Many institutions came up at that time. So the city was never master planned in any sense. There was a master plan of a town, and then the British made a division of the areas they occupied, and they were using very colonial planning methods, which is why you see a lot of gridiron patterns suddenly popping up. And then, of course, after the city started growing like crazy, because lots of the Mysore government, once it came back, started using this place more and more for its building up its institutions and all that. And then after independence, it's also an unusual city for one reason. It is a city without any smokestack industrial history. We never had a polluting industry at all, ever. No belching. Most Indian cities, you'll find these chimneys puffing clouds of toxic looking stuff into there. We never had that. As a result, we never had much of a, what would you call, the blue collar class at all in the city. And after independence, what happened? The then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru decided that Bangalore will be a city of the future. And he made a statement to that effect. He said, most cities in India definitely remind you of the past and overwhelmingly of the present. He said, Bangalore is the only place where I can see a picture of the future. Unfortunately, it's not gone exactly according to plan, but I'm sure we can find. But the idea of a city, and what happened was in the 50s, they established a lot of scientific and educational institutions from the government, the Bharat Electronics, radar development establishment, aeronautical development establishment. Then Bangalore has 103 research institutions by the government and an equal number by the private sector, if not more. So it attracted a different kind of migrant those days. All the technical people. Those days it was very difficult to go abroad and all that in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
A lot of them migrated here, and they are the parents of the IT generation. You see, the IT generation didn't pop out of nothing. All the technocrats who came to work for government companies and government research institutions, their children are the one who grabbed the IT by the horns, and you know what happened to that.
Yeah, beautiful insights. So just going back a bit and asking, why was it like military heavy? Because it is neither a port or like nowhere in a strategic position to
No. It is. I told you, it is the confluence of trade routes. What is the point of military action? To control economic output. Why did the British build railroads? Not to transport people, to move troops to trouble spots very quickly. The motivation to... So it's a military occupying force, right? And their whole idea is to pull out the economic value of that whole place out. I mean, India was some third level of GDP in the world when the British came. And when they left, we were, I think, probably just third from the bottom in terms of... So they just sucked it out. So the idea was they kept a big military force here to control the hinterland, to control from here, the entire south can be controlled. No? It's a strategically position, it's high up. You can see people coming from everywhere.
Correct.
No, you cannot attack it by surprise. You understand?
Yeah, interesting. So, and again, as you mentioned, like Nehru spoke about as in like the future city kind of a thing. So why is that the older things are not documented or restored? Because these are like really new things. So
no, in our head, see what happened was still about the 90s, early 90s. I would say just around 1990 to be precise, pre-liberalization, right? Pre-economic liberalization. Bangalore had it all. It was perfect size. It was about, I think about 30 lakhs of people. It was a city. It was no longer a town. You know, my definition of a city in India is that does the highway pass through it? If the highway doesn't pass through it, it's a city. You understand? Otherwise, the highway will go through it. Then it's a town. And if the highway ignores it, it will be a village. So, you know what I mean. Right?
Yeah.
So, it was already a city, and I remember it as, fantastic weather. You could get around from any part of the city to another part within like 20 minutes. Life was easy. The bars were open till the last guy went home. And it was a very laid back kind of hill station like atmosphere still.
Correct.
And economically also we were not doing so badly. There were all kinds of other T's, not just IT. Right? There was floriculture. There was granite business. There was some, and of course Bangalore's old favorite is the liquor business. Right? We are a liquid city in some sense. I think the highest density of bars of any Indian city is Bangalore. Right? And but it was a very non-aggressive, very laid back, very forgiving, very tolerant, very accepting kind of place. In the 90s, IT happened. The moment liberalization happened, the first thing to happen was... Let me think. What happened was that waves upon waves, see, we are all benefits of the economic prosperity of the city. When old Bangaloreans keep bemoaning the loss of the good old days, I keep telling them, exactly what are good old days.
Correct.
What period are you talking about? Oh, in the 40s and 50s. I said 40s and 50s. Suppose you had a bit too much to eat at night and you had to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. You have to cross a scorpion-infested courtyard with a bucket of water and go and use a dry toilet. Do you think that the convenience we have today of, sitting on a porcelain throne next to your bedroom and doing whatever you have to do is progress or not? Would you go back? Good old days comes with all the
baggage also.
Even from a serious point of view, antibiotics were invented during the Second World War. Suppose you got flu, you'll die those days. Some basic stuff
Correct.
What you can, I think that people have to temper. Everything old is not gold, but cultural tradition is always gold. You should never forget the
Correct.
cultural traditions. But pining for a day when, very few people were there, it may not be possible, because that economic prosperity is what is allowing a lot of people to go up in life.
Correct.
People have aspirations. It's good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the planning of the city, the same excuse I've been hearing for some time now, saying it happened too fast, we didn't know what to do. Right?
Correct.
And as I told you earlier, Bangalore is never master planned till the 90s. And by then it was already too late, and the streets were already in place, and all the patterns were already there, and then the planning authority did not have internal capability, and a lot of illegal, I wouldn't say illegal, I would say heartfelt need of the people is housing. I would say quasi-legal, so-called rampant overdevelopment happened, and that has spoiled the cities to some extent. And in that meantime, we have destroyed the nature which gave us life in the first place. All the lakes are gone. We used to have a lake. There is something used to be like some 400 lakes in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Now there are some 35 or something.
Yeah. It was also called the Lake City.
Yeah, but the lake, as I told you, was not a lake. It was a tank made by building a bund in a shallow part of the city to hold rainwater. It was not a permanent water body. It would come, it would dry up, people would dig it up, make bricks out of the clay, and then again next rainy season it will fill up. In the summer they'll use it as a cricket field, So it had it was a space of community, a tank area. It was not just it was the open space, public space of the city.
Correct.
That has disappeared. That is very tragic. And I suppose that, I am an architect myself, and my job is to, my profession is to build buildings. That's how I survive, right? That's how I get remunerated for what I do. But what I've started noticing is that wanton destruction of heritage is happening by people who do not understand that there are alternative ways for economic benefit. So Bangalore has lost, I think we had at one point, 3,000-4,000 heritage buildings. In the mid 80s, it had come down to some 800. Now there are less than 300. Every day one more will go.
Okay.
So, and most of the 300 now fortunately belong to the government. So we're telling the government, at least you don't do it. Don't break it.
Correct.
Otherwise, one of the factors in, you come from Bombay, right? Why do Bombay people have pride in Bombay?
Yeah, I mean, it is, there are if I have to connect with from where you are coming from, it has a lot of public spaces and iconic things which are preserved yet, say Gateway of India or the Marine Drive or.
So when I say the same thing about Bangalore, what image comes to your mind?
So all I can think of is Kaban Park.
So what I'm saying is heritage is not just buildings. Heritage is also open spaces, trees, parks, tanks, lakes, monuments, statue. Everything is part of your cultural memory.
Correct.
So you have to see it in a large perspective. And we have been trying, a lot of us are part of various citizen groups, and we have a group called Heritage Beku also. Beku Beda is our famous Bangalore symbol. Beku means want, Beda means we don't want. We don't want it. So we have a thing, and saying that whatever is left we are trying to, there's fairly active group of people in the city who are interested in the history and in the future generations will not know what this city was. There is no, when I told you it was 481 years old, you can't make out. It all looks like everything is covered up and broken, and some new stuff has replaced it.
Yeah.
But the hidden city is still there.
But sorry to interrupt here, and as you mentioned, there are certain, there could be certain political agenda, or what kind of agenda was it not to restore that or not to maintain, or
it's not one thing. It is a series of bad decisions over time.
Okay.
In the 70s,
but they are heavily influenced by the government itself, right? Or other
there are a lot of stakeholders, let's put it mildly.
Okay.
There are stakeholders, there are land developers, there are many institutional agencies. So what happened was, in the mid-70s, in the guise of malaria eradication, they filled up lots of lakes and converted them to land. It was a survey number. It got allotted to various people. They built a diversionary drain, which carries sewage most of the time, and then they filled up all the lakes. Who did it? Everybody did it. There's no political party which can claim any particular advantage. Everybody was complicit in doing stuff like this, and the people also didn't react. See, even as late as 10 years ago, we have this new metro, right? Some 2-3 voices like mine and maybe a couple of others in the wilderness were yelling, saying whatever it costs, at least in the center of the city, take it underground. MG Road was one of our beautiful roads, public space. Only one side had shops, the other side had a beautiful promenade to walk on.
Correct.
On top of that, they've gone and built it. They could have easily taken the metro underground for another 2-3 kilometers and popped out a little bit away.
Correct.
But they'll say budget and we don't have money. And so you have to have love for the city. You have to have pride. If you have pride and not look at just economics, then you will take the right decisions.
Correct. Interesting. Can you also share some insights into like the overall infrastructure development? I mean, with respect to growing migrants or transit people, I can see a lot of
it is starting to, the cracks are starting to show very badly, as you can see, because in the last 10-15 years, I think 63% of the city is now new migrant.
Oh,
the city's population has more than doubled in the last 15-20 years. It's come to about 1.1 crore. And plus a floating population probably of another 10-15 lakhs on a daily basis. People are coming in from the hinterland and going back also, or working here. It's simply not designed. It cannot take it.
Yeah.
One of the other reasons these lakes were filled up is because we, in the 60s and 70s, in the mid 70s, we started getting water 125 kilometers away from the Kaveri river. We have we pump it uphill and pay 50 crores a month as electricity bill. Okay. The water is pumped uphill from the river, and because of that, the central parts of Bangalore got water, and then all the lakes became irrelevant. You understand? So that's how.
But there is some groundwater as well, right?
Yeah, huge amount of groundwater is being extracted. That's also unsustainable. We'll run out of water very, very quickly now if something is not done. We have to, and the answer is very simple. Do what the founding father of Bangalore did. Build the tanks. Correct. You need rainwater harvesting, period. Correct. Maybe we can't go back and say knock off our bus stand is built on a tank, our sports stadium is built on a tank. We can't do anything about it. A metro station is under an old tank, the central. So you can't do anything about it, but at least individually, if the government says rainwater harvesting or bust, we can get about 75% of the water we draw from the Kaveri just from the sky. So we have to come up with innovative alternative. It will happen. It is not like Bangalore can't be written off that easily.
Yeah. For like the listeners also, I would say that do listen to Naresh's talk on TED and designup.io, because there are like a lot of positive hopes to the city. So originally being like a relaxed lifestyle with good weather, I mean, as you mentioned earlier also, the people are not very vocal about it. I wouldn't say they are not confronting, but as far as my living in Bangalore for 6 years, I've seen wherever there's a traffic jam or there's a deadlock, in Bombay people just roll down the windows and yell at each other.
There's no road rage in Bangalore, but it's coming.
Yeah,
you can see it.
But what is happening at a psychological level from your perspective with the locals, at least, because there are these 63% of migrants. So
people are feeling left out, because a lot of the benefits of the IT revolution are not coming back to them. So people are feeling left out. There is a sense of loss of a cultural identity. The Kannada language is not being given the respect it deserves. See, Bangalore is the only city where you can speak 5 languages to an auto driver and get away with it. No other city will let you do it. I think even Bombay, I think you better know a little bit of Marathi, otherwise you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't get away. But Bangalore, you can speak English, Urdu, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil and Hindi too. And the fellow will reply you back in the same language.
Correct.
So it's a very tolerant city, but you should not mistake tolerance for,
silent.
We are not complacent guys. I think the local identity is asserting itself, and it's important that we want to keep our culture, and this is a city made by us. It is not a city made by other people. Right?
But is there like a psychological, I wouldn't say depression, but there is some sort of low on energy when it comes to like really local.
It used to be like that. I think after we had a big agitation for that steel flyover problem in Bangalore. Now all the resident welfare associations have woken up. I think more than about 1,800 of them in the city now, and they're becoming extremely vocal as to what constitutes their neighborhood and what they want to see as development. See, really speaking, the city has to be designed by its own people. When you say people, it sounds fuzzy, but I would modify that statement and say the city has to be designed inside out, from the neighborhood outwards, not put some mega master plan made by some bureaucrats and by some consultants. It has to be done like a consultative exercise rather than a
authoritative.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, maybe not politically correct to say so, but we don't need a master plan. We need a more like a servant plan. It serves the people. You understand? This master plan already sounds like an imperialist overlay, right? That story, I think, is over. And the city nobody will listen to things happen. I mean, there are still a lot of problems in Bangalore. Traffic is a huge problem because we didn't react fast enough to put in effective public transit. And we now have the unenviable reputation of having something like, almost 1:1 people to vehicle, 1:0.8. There are some 75 lakh vehicles in Bangalore for 1.1 crore people. That's like 0.8. It's almost one vehicle. Any more than this, I think we'll have a permanent traffic jam. And we'll all have to walk. Maybe it's a good thing, or maybe take the metro. So, but we have to it's also a behavioral change that we have to find a way to make public transit the option of choice.
Correct.
And not depend upon that will only happen if the last mile connectivity is assured. So if that is not there, people will still use their private vehicles.
Correct.
So we have to cut it down.
Obviously, there are two parts to this whole conversation. One is like this is what I was thinking while before the recording, that there are certain aspects where you talk about resolutions, you talk about solutions, how it can be done, and the other side you address the concerns and just lay them out and make people sensitive about it. So I wanted the later one in this conversation, obviously, because if you get into solutions, there are thousands of people who would be interested ideas. And the next one is slightly a personal curiosity, because I have faced this on a day-to-day basis. Like, what could be the wrong with the road design, especially where people like complain about traffic jams or water logging, even if there is a small rainfall. So, can you highlight some?
See, a road in India is not that black surface that you see. It's a conceptual problem. The road in India is what is below it. And what is below it is effective drainage. If the road is not drained properly, Bangalore, as I told you, is 3,000 feet above sea level, and everything slopes away from us in all directions. There's the highest point in the center of the city called high grounds, and from there there's no reason it should flood at all. Water should just push off.
Correct.
But what happens is that the road geometry is poor. Our road design, the conceptual design of our what is called a right of way. It is not the road. It is compound wall to compound wall, property to property, including the stormwater, including the utilities, including the footpath, including the carriageway where the actual vehicles go, and also the median. Everything is the road. Is the right of way. And the main killer in that is that the road technology we use is something called water-bound macadam or asphalt, which is, if water stagnates on it, it will dissolve. As long as water drains off, and the key word is drain. I always joke to everybody saying, all we have in India is brain drain, where our guys go and do the same good stuff in Dubai or America or wherever. And the brain is missing from India. Nobody knows how to do drainage. You know what I mean? I'm just in a lighter vein.
Correct.
But all is not lost. I think the center of Bangalore, we have a very good project going called Tender Sure, which addresses this issue. And we have seen that in the current rainy season, none of these roads are developing any of these problems that are endemic to the other places. So the pilot of about 50 kilometers is completed in the center of the city here. And that's the way forward. We have to find a way also not to widen roads unnecessarily. Because if you widen it, people will go and buy more private vehicles. If you build more flyovers, the flyover story is over. We have to demolish what is there in the city. So the key word here is, rather than look at building more roads, we have to find a way to demotorize the roads. Take out the number of vehicles by increasing public transit options. And also making sure the most important guy in the public transit option is what I call number 11, which is your 2 feet. So this make the city accessible to pedestrians 100%. There's no question of not having a footpath. You may not have a road, but you will have a footpath.
Correct.
You understand? The thinking should be reversed this way. And you will also look at it from an engineering perspective. How do you put all the cables and stuff into easily accessible ducts so that the road doesn't get dug up, or the footpath also doesn't get dug up? And you also make sure that the drainage is perfectly done. The top layer, it can be anything. It can be concrete, it can be asphalt, it can be black, it can be white, it can be red or green or whatever you want. But if you don't do the drainage, simply it won't work. And if you don't do the engineering right. So solutions are available, but unfortunately what happens is the system of governance in India is highly resistant to change. Not because they don't, I mean, the people in government are also citizens, right?
Correct.
Just like you enjoy a great road, they will also enjoy a great road. But the system is designed to create what I would call unnatural gratification.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, that's called a euphemism. Right? It creates rent-seeking behavior among all the stakeholders there.
Correct.
What happens is, if you make a change, they are used to what is called annuity contracts. So they would spend 50 lakhs a year per kilometer of road. Right? That's because you can spend that every year.
Correct.
And you know what happens to most of it. Right?
Yeah.
But if I say spend 5 crores one time and you don't have to touch the road for 10 years, there will be resistance. Everybody has understood that these are better roads.
Correct.
These footpaths are better. This way to do it is better. It's easier to maintain. Everything is much easier. Traffic also flows better. But in the change from that 50 lakhs thinking to that 5 crore thinking, there will be a loss of revenue. And that makes the system resistant to change in a large scale.
Revenue is mostly the rent-seeking part itself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have to elaborate on. There are problems in our fund flow into infrastructure projects. There are issues which is not 100% transparent to the average person. So I don't want to elaborate on that, but it's not like it's impossible, right? So many civic activists and people who are interested in the city, we all feel like, I don't know whether you know the Greek myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned, a man called Sisyphus, he was condemned to roll a giant rock up a hill.
Correct, yeah.
From the bottom all by himself. When it reached the top, it would roll down and go to the bottom, and he had to go and push it back up. So working with government processes is like Sisyphean, if you want me to call that. But sometimes we manage to do it and a few good things come out of it. But I'm saying that with RTI and with the increased media attention on what is going on, at least I think there is progress and hope for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Naresh sir, I would like to conclude with one last question, given the time constraint. Where is Bengaluru heading? I mean, what can citizens be aware? Because as you mentioned just now, the rolling stone, right? So even if if you look at the broken windows concept, the things in say 100 feet road or 80 feet road, if there are great footpaths and like wide footpaths, there's a lot of things which are dug up randomly, and then people get complacent or get used to all those things. So what could be your insights, or I don't want to say tips, but yeah, just to like changing weather or bad roads, what can people be at least aware so that they don't fall in this snowball rolling effect of getting
No, I think you can answer that question in one word, right? And that word is, how do you make this into a sustainable city? What does it take? What does it take? It's very simple. You need metrics. You cannot have visions. I don't like visions. They are fuzzy, cotton candy visions of the future, which nobody is held accountable for. Our political systems are designed to last only 5 years at a time or less.
Correct.
So whatever you can do has to have a 5-year vision. That's it. If you say but the politician will also say in 2050 Bangalore, we don't care. Right now 2023, what will you do? And in every year in that, what will you do? So we have to change this whole idea of visioning the city into a long-term, holistic, sustainable vision, but a short-term, tactical vision to get there. And to do that, you need metrics. So I told you 1990 was the best year. So I have a radical idea. So we take air quality metrics of that time, water quality. So we look at the Panchabhutas, right? I'm a great fan of Indian philosophy and Indian design paradigms. So what I call, and I say, look at the Panchabhutas or the Panchatatvas, whatever you want to call them. The Akasha, which is the sky, which means I would say pollution and the quality of air and all that is part of it, right? And I would say space, then is how people have adequate housing, is it close to schools, is it convenient, that would come under. So if you look at the Panchabhutas, there's your answer. India has been thinking about things for a very long time. We should stop looking at the west or the east for answers, and we have to look within. And our answers are there. And if you take those metrics saying that SPM 2.5 is your suspended particulate matter 2.5 is your measure of pollution. That is the size of the micro particle. What was the level in 1990? X. The safe level is some 60 or something, and right now Bangalore is already at some 120, but nothing compared to Delhi, which is at 400 or something. They're exceeding the air quality index scale. There's no more numbers left in for Delhi. We are not so bad. Okay, and so if you say that the air quality index in 1990 was, let us say, 30, what can we do today to make it go back to that level? Or at least say 10% variation? What can you do? You have to reduce the number of vehicles. You have to take out the pollution sources. So you understand, you can create a framework, but you need these top 5 metrics in place. Space, trees per person in 1990. How many? How many are there today? Lakes per person in 1990. How many were there? How can we bring back something? How can we at least get... So you have like so what I am saying is that it's like the movie Back to the Future, right? So we need a past forward mentality, not a fast forward mentality. And we don't want to keep on headlong, turbulently going into the unknown future. If you say no, the city will be based on these metrics, then you would have the answer saying, to do that, what are the plans to make that happen?
Correct.
Which immediately everybody will say, already there are too many people. Everybody is welcome. But as long as you follow the rules from now on.
Correct. And rules are for everyone.
Rules are for everybody. And there are 8 towns around Bangalore, a string of pearls if you want to call them. All these towns should be developed into vibrant cities. They have, each one has the potential. All 8 of them have the potential, and then create a new 8-city ring around the city and put a nice big green belt with big lakes in the middle. So everybody has water, everybody is happy. These are all utopic visions, but unless you have a radical vision of the city, right? Create 8 new cities out of existing towns and create 8 new lakes which holds the rainwater of the city and uses it as a resource. This city cannot go forward. It will come to a position where there will be water wars, there will be already road rage is increasing. We have to find a way to make footpaths wider and not roads broader. That's the vision. So, but I don't know when that will happen. I hope that at least we have a watchdog group, a lot of watchdog groups in Bangalore now, and it won't slide further worse than this.
And it has happened because people like you are giving a sort of optimistic view of the city. And also, I think to add to what you said about sustainable things, I think the definition of sustainable has to be really ingrained in people, because
as a metric, it has to be a number. Otherwise, people don't follow it. If you say fuzzy things like, I bought take cloth bag for shopping, that is not a metric. You understand?
Correct.
If you say, by doing this, the total amount of garbage generated in 1990 was 1,000 tons or less. Right now it's 4,000. How do we bring it back to 1,000?
Correct.
Then you can make a plan, right? Then it's an engineering problem, then it's a social problem, then it's a
design problem.
You can design the city, you can use design thinking to change the city.
Correct. Wow, it was wonderful. I think this is a good note to end this. I understand there are thousands of things to be discussed, and maybe I can pick up another topic and just go deeper into it, and then we can have another audio.
I can go on for hours. So. Thank you very much for calling me to the show. I quite enjoyed the conversation.
Same here. Thank you.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on Audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.